The morning started like any other day on Earth. People went to work, children played in parks, and the great cities hummed with daily life. But at exactly 10:47 a.m. Greenwich time, everything changed forever. Dr. Sarah Chen was drinking her coffee at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Australia when her screens lit up with impossible readings. She dropped her mug and watched it shatter on the floor, but her eyes never left the displays. 12 massive objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system, just beyond Pluto's orbit. "This can't be right," she whispered, running the scans again. But the numbers didn't lie. Each object was over 12 kilometers long and unlike anything humans had ever built. They weren't asteroids or comets. These things had perfect geometric shapes and were moving with clear purpose. Within minutes, every space agency on Earth was tracking the objects. The United Nations Emergency Council met in New York while military leaders gathered in secure bunkers. President Martinez of the Americas Federation stared at the satellite feeds with growing dread. General Thompson of the European Alliance checked his weapon systems. Premier Wang of the Asian Republic activated ancient defense protocols that most people thought were just science fiction. The objects moved slowly but steadily toward the inner solar system. They ignored all attempts at communication. Radio signals, laser pulses, and even old-fashioned mathematical sequences got no response. The 12 ships simply continued their journey toward Earth. Elena Vasquez, the Secretary General of the Terran Defense Coalition, stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva. Around her, screens showed the approaching fleet while analysts worked frantically to understand what they were facing. Elena had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, though she had hoped it would never come. "Ma'am," called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station, "we're getting a transmission. It's in every human language at once." The main screen flickered and showed something that made everyone in the room step backward. The creature was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. Its body glowed with inner light, and its voice echoed with the sound of breaking glass when it spoke. "People of Earth," the being said, its words somehow perfect in every language. "I am Veltar, supreme arbiter of the hegemony of ascended civilizations. We have been watching your species for many of your lifetimes. The time has come for your world to join the greater galactic community." Elena felt her hands clench into fists. She had read the reports, studied the theories, and trained for this day, but seeing an actual alien still sent chills down her spine. Veltar continued speaking. "Your species shows promise, but you are young and dangerous. You fight among yourselves and damage your world. You spread into space without wisdom or guidance. This cannot continue." On the screen, the alien's crystal body pulsed with different colors as it spoke. "The hegemony has guided 847 civilizations to peaceful prosperity. We offer you the same gift. Submit to our authority, accept our guidance, and your species will know peace and plenty. We will help you evolve beyond your primitive nature." Elena looked around the room. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and anger. These aliens spoke of guidance, but their tone made it clear this was not really a choice. "You have 30 of your Earth days to decide," Veltar announced. "Choose wisely. Those who accept our guidance prosper. Those who refuse face corrective measures. We await your answer." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in deadly silence. Elena stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. 30 days to decide the fate of humanity. 30 days to choose between freedom and slavery. Because despite the aliens' pretty words, that's what this really was. "Get me the other coalition leaders," she ordered. "Emergency session in 1 hour, and activate Protocol Defiance." Lieutenant Rodriguez looked confused. "Ma'am, I'm not familiar with that protocol." Elena smiled grimly. "Most people aren't. That's the point." Across the world, similar scenes played out. In the American capital, President Martinez met with his Joint Chiefs. In Europe, emergency sessions convened in every major city. Asia's leaders held urgent video conferences while African nations mobilized their space forces. Australia and the Pacific Federation prepared their orbital platforms. But while politicians debated and the public panicked, other people went to work. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chen Wei-lin received a coded message that made him smile for the first time in years. On Mars, the colony administrator sent a single-word reply. Understood. In the asteroid belt, mining foreman Jackson Murphy looked at his crews and nodded. They all knew what came next. The world's news. Services went crazy. Every channel showed the alien ships now close enough to see clearly. Experts debated what the aliens wanted while protesters filled the streets. Some carried signs demanding humanity submit to the aliens. Others called for war. Most people just seemed scared and confused. Elena spent the next 3 days in constant meetings. The Coalition Council met in emergency session, bringing together leaders from every nation on Earth and every human settlement in space. The debates were fierce but brief. Some wanted to negotiate. A few demanded immediate surrender, but most agreed with Elena's position. Humanity would not bow to alien masters. Look at their words, Elena told the council. They call us primitive and dangerous. They talk about corrective measures. These aren't beings who want to help us. They want to control us. General Thompson nodded. My people have been analyzing their ships. Those aren't exploration vessels. They're warships, pure and simple. They came here expecting a fight. Premier Wong leaned forward. The question is, are we prepared to give them one? Elena looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. These people had spent decades learning to work together, putting aside old grudges and national interests for the good of their species. Now that unity would be tested like never before. Yes, she said simply. We are prepared. The vote was closer than Elena had hoped, but clear enough. Humanity would reject the alien ultimatum. They would stand and fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. As the days passed, the alien ships moved closer. They maintained their silence, ignoring all human attempts at communication. Their ships were beautiful in an alien way, all curves and flowing lines that seemed to bend light around them, but underneath that beauty, human sensors detected massive weapons and shield generators. Elena spent her nights reading reports that most of the world had never seen. For 50 years, ever since the first radio signals from space, humanity had been preparing. Not everyone knew about it. The projects were scattered across dozens of agencies and hidden in civilian programs. But the preparations were real. The asteroid mining operations weren't just about resources. The Mars colony was more than just a settlement. Even the moon bases had secrets that would surprise the aliens. Humanity had learned to plan ahead, to prepare for threats that might never come. This time, the threat was very real. On the 28th day, Elena stood before the cameras to give humanity's answer. She wore her simple blue uniform, the same one she had worn for 10 years as Coalition Secretary General. Behind her stood the flags of every human nation and colony, a symbol of the unity that had taken centuries to achieve. People of Earth, people of Mars, people of the Belt, she began. We have heard the hegemony's offer. We have considered their words carefully. Now we give our answer. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Somewhere out there, she knew the aliens were listening. Humanity chooses freedom. We choose to stand on our own feet and make our own mistakes. We choose to remain human in all our messy, dangerous, wonderful glory. To the hegemony, we say this: we thank you for your offer, but we must decline. We stand prepared and strong. If you want our world, come and take it. Veltar watched the human transmission from the bridge of his flagship with something resembling amusement. The crystal being's body flickered with colors that his subordinates recognized as mild entertainment. In all his centuries of service, to the hegemony, He had seen this scene many times before. Predictable, he said to his aide, a smaller crystalline being named Cortnez. The young species always choose defiance at first. They think their primitive weapons and crude technology can challenge the might of the hegemony. Cortnez consulted his datapad. Shall I deploy the full subjugation fleet, Supreme Arbiter? Veltar's laugh sounded like wind chimes in a storm. For these humans? Hardly necessary. Their technology is decades behind acceptable standards. Their society is barely unified. Send 3 ships to demonstrate our power. When they see their orbital installations destroyed, they will surrender quickly enough. Around the alien fleet, scout ships had been busy for weeks. They mapped human defenses, cataloged weapon systems, and analyzed the electromagnetic signatures of Earth's technology. The reports were unanimous. Humanity posed no serious threat to hegemony forces. The aliens had encountered 847 species before humans. Some surrendered immediately when they saw the hegemony fleet. Others fought briefly, before accepting defeat. A few required extensive bombardment before they learned their place, but none had ever seriously threatened a hegemony vessel. Their space technology is primitive, reported Commander Yextal from his scout ship. Chemical rockets with basics, fusion drives, simple projectile weapons and crude energy beams. Their largest vessels are barely 200 meters long. Veltar nodded. This matched the patterns they had seen on thousands of worlds. Young species developed slowly, following predictable paths. They built small ships for near-space exploration, established basic colonies on nearby worlds, and thought themselves advanced. They never imagined the vast civilizations that already ruled the galaxy. What of their military preparations? Veltar asked. Minimal, Yextal replied. They have some orbital platforms around their homeworld, and a few bases on their moon. Their Mars colony appears to be purely civilian. We detect no significant military presence beyond their immediate planetary space. Veltar was pleased. Some species required expensive and time-consuming campaigns to subdue. These humans would fall quickly, leaving their world intact for hegemony use. Their solar system would make a useful supply depot for future expansion into this spiral arm. But while the aliens planned their easy victory, humanity was moving in ways they could not see. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, Admiral Chen Wei-Lin walked through corridors that did not appear on any public map. The Red Planet's largest city, New Shanghai, bustled with activity above him. But down here, in the military complex that stretched for kilometers beneath the civilian settlement, different work was underway. Status report, he called to Colonel Torres, who stood before a massive tactical display. All stations report ready, sir, Torres replied. The defensive batteries are powered up and waiting. The fighter squadrons are prepped for launch, and the special project is ready for deployment. Chen nodded grimly. For 30 years, he had helped build this secret military infrastructure. While the public knew Mars as a peaceful research colony, the reality was very different. Every civilian structure had been built with defense in mind. Every mining tunnel had secondary uses. Every research station hid weapons that could destroy ships in orbit. What about the belt? Chen asked. Captain Murphy reports all mining platforms are ready. The aliens think they're looking at civilian asteroid operations. They have no idea. What we've really built out there? Chen allowed himself a small smile. The asteroid belt mining operations were humanity's greatest deception. Yes, they mined metals and rare elements, but they had also built something else. A network of mobile weapons platforms disguised as mining equipment. Hundreds of them, spread across millions of kilometers of space. On Earth's moon, Dr. Sarah Okafor put the finishing touches on humanity's most secret project. The Europa Research Station had been studying alien artifacts for 20 years, ever since the first dig teams found the ruins buried beneath the ice. Those artifacts had taught humanity about technologies they never could have discovered alone. The quantum disruptors are ready, she reported to Elena Vasquez over a secure channel. We've built 12 of them hidden in the lunar research facilities. Each one can punch through any known shield technology. Elena's voice crackled through the encrypted communication. Are you certain they'll work? The alien artifacts we found were weapons, destroyed in some ancient war, Sarah explained. We've reverse-engineered the basic principles. Our versions are crude compared to the originals, but they should be effective against anything the hegemony can deploy. Across the solar system, similar preparations were reaching completion. The asteroid belt's mining ships armed their hidden weapons. Mars' research stations powered up their concealed defense grids. Earth's moon revealed gun positions that had been decades in the making, but the most important preparations were happening in places the aliens hadn't even noticed. Captain Marcus Torres floated in zero gravity aboard the stealth ship Defiance, one of 50 vessels hidden in the asteroid belt. To alien sensors, his ship looked like a piece of space debris. In reality, it was humanity's most advanced warship, built using technology learned from the Europa artifacts. All stealth ships report ready, he transmitted to Mars Command. The aliens have no idea we're here. The stealth fleet had been humanity's most expensive project. Each ship was small, fast, and nearly invisible to conventional sensors. They carried quantum disruptors and kinetic weapons that could destroy much larger vessels. Most importantly, they were crewed by volunteers who knew this might be a one-way mission. Torres had been chosen to lead the stealth fleet because of his experience with unconventional warfare. He had spent 10 years fighting pirates in the outer system, learning to use speed and surprise against larger forces. Now, those skills would be tested against alien technology. On Earth, Elena Vasquez reviewed the final preparations from her command bunker. Around her, screens showed the positions of human forces throughout the solar system. To the aliens, humanity looked weak and divided. In reality, they had spent 50 years building the most coordinated defense network in human history. All stations report ready, General Thompson announced. The lunar gun batteries are charged. Mars Defense Command is standing by. The Belt Fleet is in position. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Elena nodded. She thought about the path that had brought humanity to this moment. For centuries, humans had fought each other over resources, territory, and ideology. But the threat from space had changed everything. Nation after nation had joined the Terran Defense Coalition, pooling their resources and knowledge for this day. The irony was not lost on her. It had taken the threat of alien conquest to finally unite humanity. But unite they had, and now they would stand together against any force that threatened their freedom. The aliens are moving, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez. 3 ships have broken off from the main fleet. They're heading for Earth. Elena felt her pulse quicken. This was it. After 30 days of waiting, the hegemony was finally making their move. They thought they were facing a primitive, divided species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Send the signal to all commands, she ordered. Operation Defiance is now active. All units are authorized to engage alien forces on site. Across the solar system, human defenders received the message they had been waiting for. Mars Defense Command armed their weapons. The Belt Fleet prepared for battle. Earth's hidden fortifications powered up their systems. The stealth ships moved into attack positions. Veltar watched the 3 hegemony ships approach Earth with satisfaction. Soon, the humans would see the futility of resistance. Their primitive weapons would bounce harmlessly off hegemony shields. Their small ships would be vaporized by superior firepower, and then they would surrender, as all species eventually did. Begin the demonstration, he ordered. Target their orbital installations. Minimal damage at first. We want them frightened, not destroyed. The 3 hegemony ships entered Earth's orbital space and powered up their weapons. They were massive vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their shields shimmered with energy that could deflect any known weapon. Their guns could reduce mountains to dust. But as they prepared to fire, something unexpected happened. Hidden weapons positions on Earth's moon suddenly blazed to life. The research stations revealed themselves as massive gun batteries. Quantum. Disruptor beams, invisible to alien sensors, lanced out across space. And in the asteroid belt, hundreds of mining ships dropped their disguises and revealed themselves as warships. For the first time in over 1,000 years, hegemony vessels found themselves under serious attack. Their shields flickered and failed under the quantum bombardment. Their hulls cracked as kinetic weapons found their mark, and their crews watched in shock as the primitive humans they had dismissed proved they had teeth after all. Veltar stared at his tactical displays, in disbelief. This was impossible. The scouts had reported minimal human defenses. Where had all these weapons come from? The first quantum disruptor beam hit the lead hegemony ship exactly at 1432 Earth Standard Time. The invisible energy tore through the alien vessel's shields like they were made of paper. On the moon, Dr. Sarah Okafor watched her instruments, with grim satisfaction as the weapon she had spent 20 years perfecting proved its worth. Direct hit on target Alpha, she reported to Earth Command. Their shields are down by 60%. Around the lunar surface, 11 more quantum disruptor arrays opened fire. The alien ships, which had approached Earth expecting easy targets, suddenly found themselves under devastating attack from weapons their scouts had never detected. Commander Yextal of the hegemony vessel Eternal Glory watched his shield readings drop with growing alarm. His ship shuddered as human kinetic rounds hammered against its hull. These were not the primitive projectiles his intelligence reports had described. These rounds moved at significant fractions of light speed and carried explosive charges that could crack his ship's armor. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Our scouts reported no such weapons." Before anyone could answer, proximity alarms began screaming throughout the ship. From seemingly empty space around Earth, dozens of human vessels appeared as if from nowhere. They were small and fast, moving in attack patterns that no civilized species would dare attempt. Captain Marcus Torres led the stealth fleet's first strike from his command ship Defiance. Around him, 49 other stealth vessels dropped their camouflage and revealed themselves to the stunned aliens. These ships had been hiding in Earth's shadow, powered down and undetectable until this moment. "All ships, target the damaged." "Vessel!" Torres commanded. "Hit them hard and fast!" The stealth ships swarmed around the wounded hegemony vessel like angry hornets. Their quantum disruptors punched holes in the alien ship's hull, while kinetic weapons shattered its weapon systems. Within minutes, the massive alien warship was drifting helplessly, its crew struggling to keep life support operational. On Mars, Admiral Chen Wei-Lin watched the battle unfold with professional interest. The Red Planet's hidden defenses had not yet revealed themselves, but their time was coming. The aliens thought they were dealing with a single world's resistance. They had no idea how extensive humanity's preparations really were. "Sir," reported Colonel Torres from the Tactical Center. "Long-range sensors detect movement from the main alien fleet. They're sending reinforcements." Chen nodded. This was expected. The initial attack had been a probe, designed to test human defenses and hopefully force a quick surrender. When that failed, the aliens would escalate. But humanity was ready for that too. "Signal the Belt Fleet," Chen ordered. "Time to show our guests what real mining equipment can do." In the asteroid belt, Captain Jackson Murphy received the authorization he had been waiting for. Around him, 300 mining ships suddenly came alive with military precision. These vessels had spent years disguising themselves as civilian operations, harvesting asteroids and processing ore. But hidden beneath their industrial equipment were weapon systems that would have impressed any military engineer. "All mining platforms, this is Captain Murphy," he broadcast on a secure channel. "It's time to go to work. Target the alien reinforcements and show them what human engineering can really do." The mining ships had several advantages over traditional warships. They were already scattered throughout a huge volume of space, making them nearly impossible to track or target effectively. They carried massive industrial equipment that could be weaponized in creative ways. And most importantly, they knew the asteroid belt better than any outside force ever could. Murphy's ship, the Iron Maiden, led the assault. Her mining lasers, designed to cut through solid rock, focused on the approaching alien vessels with deadly precision. Her cargo launchers, built to move tons of ore, hurled kinetic projectiles at speeds that could penetrate any armor. And her industrial robots, programmed for construction work, had been reprogrammed for very different tasks. The alien reinforcement fleet consisted of 8 heavy cruisers, vessels designed to overwhelm primitive defenses through sheer firepower. They approached the asteroid belt in formation, confident that any human resistance would collapse quickly once they demonstrated their superior technology. They were wrong. The first alien ship to enter the belt found itself under attack from directions that seemed impossible. Asteroids that had appeared to be natural formations suddenly revealed hidden weapons. Mining ships that had looked harmless opened fire with industrial equipment turned into instruments of war, and throughout the belt, human voices coordinated. Attacks with the precision of a symphony orchestra. "Contact left bearing 270, called out miner Susan Chen from her platform. "Big, ugly ship. Looks expensive." "I see it," replied Foreman Rodriguez from his position 3,000 kilometers away. Targeting their engine section with the main cutter. The alien ship tried to return fire, but its weapons were designed for long-range fleet combat, not close quarters fighting among asteroids. Human ships darted between chunks of rock, using the natural cover to avoid enemy fire while launching attacks from unexpected angles. Captain Murphy coordinated the chaos with the skill of someone who had spent his entire career in the dangerous environment of the asteroid belt. His miners were tough, independent people who had learned to survive in one of the most hostile environments humans had ever encountered. Now they used those same skills against an alien invasion force. "Team Alpha, focus fire on that cruiser's shield generators," he ordered. "Team Beta, hit their weapon systems. Team Gamma, keep those fighters busy." The alien fighters were fast and maneuverable, but they had never operated in an asteroid field. Human pilots, who had spent years navigating through floating mountains of rock and metal, outflew them with ease. The aliens found themselves crashing into asteroids they had failed to detect, while human fighters used the terrain to set up perfect ambush positions. Back near Earth, the initial alien probe was in full retreat. 2 of their 3 ships had been crippled, and the third was trying desperately to escape the swarm of human vessels pursuing it. Commander Yextal, whose ship was now little more than a drifting wreck, sent an emergency message to the main fleet. "This is Commander Yextal to Supreme Arbiter Veltar," he transmitted, his voice shaking with shock and pain. "The humans, they were ready for us. They have weapons we've never seen before, ships that appear from nowhere. Our intelligence reports were completely wrong." On the flagship of the main hegemony fleet, Veltar received the transmission with growing anger. His crystalline body flickered through red and orange hues that indicated rage and disbelief. This was not how civilized warfare was conducted. Young species were supposed to be overawed by hegemony technology, not mount effective resistance. "Impossible," he snarled to his aide Cortnez. "Our scouts surveyed their entire system. They have no significant military technology." Cortnez consulted his datapad nervously. "Sir, perhaps our assessment was incomplete. The humans appear to have been preparing for this encounter for some time." Veltar's anger shifted to something approaching respect, though he would never admit it. In his long career, he had conquered hundreds of worlds. Most species surrendered after seeing a demonstration of hegemony power. Those that fought usually lasted only a few hours before accepting defeat. But these humans were different. "Order all remaining ships to withdraw beyond Jupiter's orbit," he commanded. Send a message to the core worlds. We need the full subjugation fleet. For the first time in over 1,000 years, a hegemony operation had failed. Veltar did not intend to let that failure stand. Elena Vasquez watched the alien retreat from her command center with a mixture of relief and concern. The first battle had gone better than anyone had dared hope. Human forces had destroyed 5 alien ships and damaged several more while taking minimal casualties themselves. But she knew this was only the beginning. "They'll be back, General," Thompson warned. "And next time they'll bring everything they have." Elena nodded. The hegemony had been caught off guard, but they would not make the same mistake twice. The next attack would be overwhelming, designed to crush human resistance through sheer force of numbers. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Our deep space. Sensors indicate they're calling for reinforcements," Dr. Chen reported from the monitoring station. "Based on the quantum signatures, we estimate at least 50 ships, maybe more." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. 50 ships would outnumber the entire human fleet by more than 2 to 1. Even with their technological advantages, humanity would be fighting desperate odds. "Send a message to all commands," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. All units are to prepare for Phase 2. Across the solar system, human forces received the message and began their next preparations. The first battle had been a surprise attack, catching the aliens off guard with weapons they had never seen before. The second battle would be different. It would be a test of human determination against overwhelming odds. But humanity had one advantage. The aliens did not understand. They were not fighting for conquest or glory or the expansion of empire. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their freedom. And there was no force in the galaxy more dangerous than humans defending what? The hegemony subjugation fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system like a storm made of metal and death. 50 massive warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. At their head flew Veltar's flagship, the Dominion Eternal, bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. Elena Vasquez stood in her command center watching the displays as human sensors tracked the approaching fleet. Around her, the best military minds humanity had ever produced worked frantically to coordinate their defenses. But even she had to admit the odds looked impossible. 50 confirmed capital ships, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez, plus approximately 200 smaller vessels, fighter craft, assault transports, and support ships. Total enemy force estimate is over 300 vessels. Elena felt her stomach tighten. The entire human fleet numbered less than 400 ships, and most of those were converted civilian vessels or small patrol craft. They were facing a military force that had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds. "What's our status?" she asked General Thompson. "Mars Command reports all defensive systems online. The Belt Fleet is in position and ready. Earth's orbital defenses are at maximum readiness, and our secret weapon is ready for deployment," Thompson replied grimly. The secret weapon was humanity's last desperate gamble. Dr. Sarah Okafor had been working on it since the first alien artifacts were discovered on Europa. It was a quantum cascade device that could theoretically chain react through alien ship systems. But it was completely untested, and deploying it would require a suicide mission into the heart of the enemy fleet. Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his crystalline body glowing with satisfaction. This time there would be no surprises. His scouts had mapped every human defensive position. His fleet included ships from a dozen different conquered species, each bringing their own weapons and tactics. The humans would face the full might of the hegemony's war machine. "Supreme Arbiter," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting significant military activity throughout the human system. They appear to be mobilizing their entire fleet." "Let them," Veltar replied confidently. "They showed cleverness in our first encounter, but cleverness cannot overcome overwhelming force. Today we will demonstrate why the hegemony has ruled the galaxy for millennia." But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, they encountered something unexpected. The humans were not waiting passively for attack. Instead, They were advancing to meet the alien force with a coordination that surprised the hegemony commanders. Admiral Chen Wei-lin led the Mars Defense Fleet out from the Red Planet with grim determination. His ships were outnumbered 10-1, but they moved with precision that spoke of years of training and preparation. Behind them, Mars itself had become a fortress, its surface bristling with hidden weapons and its orbital space filled with defensive platforms. "All ships maintain formation," Chen commanded as his fleet accelerated toward the approaching aliens. "Remember, we're not trying to win a traditional engagement. We're buying time for the special operation." In the asteroid belt, Captain Murphy coordinated 300 mining ships that had been converted into improvised warships. They moved through the belt like a three-dimensional maze, using the asteroids for cover and concealment. Their plan was simple: hit the aliens hard, then disappear into the belt before they could respond effectively. "Remember, people," Murphy broadcast to his fleet, "we know this space better than anyone. Use that advantage. Hit them where they don't expect it, then vanish before they can target us." Near Earth, Captain Torres prepared his stealth fleet for what everyone knew would be a desperate mission. The quantum cascade device had to be delivered to the exact center of the alien formation to be effective. That meant flying through the heaviest concentration of enemy fire in human history. "All pilots, final equipment check," Torres ordered. "This is a volunteer mission only. Anyone who wants to transfer to the defense fleet, speak up now." Not a single pilot moved. These men and women had trained for this moment their entire careers. They knew the odds, but they also knew what was at stake. If they failed, humanity would fall to alien rule. The battle began when the hegemony fleet entered the asteroid belt. Captain Murphy's miners struck first, emerging from behind asteroids to launch surprise attacks before disappearing again. Their industrial equipment, weaponized for war, carved through alien hulls with devastating effect. But this time, the aliens were ready. Hegemony fighters swarmed through the belt, hunting down the human ships with ruthless efficiency. Advanced sensors penetrated the asteroid camouflage that had worked so well in the first battle. Within hours, half of Murphy's fleet had been destroyed or disabled. "All remaining units fall back to secondary positions," Murphy ordered as his own ship shuddered under enemy fire. The Iron Maiden's hull was breached in 6 places, and half his crew was dead or wounded. But still they fought, using every trick they had learned in decades of asteroid mining. The main battle erupted when Admiral Chen's Mars fleet met the alien vanguard near Jupiter's orbit. Human ships darted between the gas giant's moons, using gravitational slingshots to achieve impossible velocities. They struck hard and fast, then used Jupiter's radiation and magnetic field to mask their movements. Chen himself led the most dangerous attack, taking his flagship directly at the alien command ship. His vessel, the New Beijing, was barely 1/10 the size of its target, but it carried quantum disruptors and the determination of a man fighting for his species' survival. "Target their shield generators," Chen ordered, as enemy fire lit up space around his ship. "All weapons, continuous fire." The New Beijing's quantum disruptors punched through the alien ship's defenses, but return fire was devastating. Chen felt his ship breaking apart around him, systems failing one by one. But still he pressed the attack, knowing that every moment he delayed the aliens was another moment for the special mission to succeed. On Earth, Elena watched the battle reports with growing despair. Human forces were fighting with incredible bravery, but they were being slowly overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower. The Mars fleet was down to half strength. The belt miners had been reduced to guerrilla actions, and the main alien fleet was still advancing toward Earth. "Ma'am," called out Dr. Okafor from her station. "Captain Torres reports ready for the Cascade mission, but he needs the aliens concentrated in a tighter formation." Elena nodded grimly. That meant allowing the alien fleet to get closer to Earth, putting her homeworld at greater risk. but it was their only hope. "Signal all remaining forces," she ordered. "Fall back toward Earth. Draw the aliens into our final defensive line." Veltar watched the human retreat with satisfaction. His fleet had taken losses, but they were acceptable. The humans fought well for primitives, but they could not stand against the full might of the hegemony. Soon their homeworld would be within range of his planet-cracking weapons. "All ships, advance to Earth orbit," he commanded. "Prepare to demonstrate the price of defiance." As the alien fleet closed on Earth, Captain Torres led his stealth squadron on their final mission. 25 small ships, invisible to alien sensors, carried the quantum cascade device toward the heart of the enemy formation. They moved slowly, careful not to reveal themselves too early. "Remember," Torres told his pilots, "we only get one shot at this. The device has to be delivered to the exact center of their formation to achieve maximum effect. Once we reveal ourselves, we'll have maybe 30 seconds before they destroy us." The stealth ships ghosted through space, passing between alien vessels undetected. Torres watched the alien formation on his screens, waiting for the perfect moment. The hegemony ships were packed tightly together, confident in their overwhelming superiority. "Now," Torres whispered, and triggered the attack. 25 human ships suddenly appeared in the middle of the alien fleet, moving at maximum acceleration toward the hegemony flagship. Alarms screamed throughout the alien formation as they realized what was happening, but it was too late to react effectively. Torres's ship, the Defiance, led the desperate charge. Enemy fire filled space around them, and human ships died one by one. But they kept flying, driven by the knowledge that everything depended on their success. "Torres to Cascade Team," the captain broadcast, as his ship shuddered under alien fire. "I'm hit and losing power. Someone else will have to make the delivery." Lieutenant Sarah Kim, flying her fighter Phoenix Rising, took up the mission. Her ship was smaller and faster than Torres's vessel, but it was also more fragile. Enemy fire shattered her port wing and killed her navigation system, but still she flew on. "This is Kim," she transmitted as her ship broke apart around her. "I'm almost in position. The device is armed and ready." Kim's ship disintegrated under concentrated alien fire just as she reached the center of the enemy formation. But her sacrifice was not in vain. The quantum cascade device activated exactly where Dr. Okafor had calculated it would do the most damage. The effect was immediate and devastating. A wave of quantum energy rippled outward from the device, disrupting the alien ships' power systems and disabling their weapons, ships that had seemed invincible. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Elena Vasquez stood in the same command center where she had watched humanity's greatest victory unfold. But now the screens showed something very different. A galaxy in revolution. The quantum cascade signal had spread far beyond the solar system, carried by the hegemony's own communication networks to every corner of their empire. On world after world, enslaved species were breaking free from the control systems that had kept them docile for centuries. The galaxy was waking up from a 1,000-year nightmare. "Latest reports from the Outer Rim," announced Lieutenant Rodriguez, now promoted to colonel after his service in the war. "The Zephyrian republics have declared independence. The hegemony garrison in the Andorian sector has surrendered. And we're receiving requests for assistance from 67 newly liberated worlds." Elena nodded, but her expression remained troubled. Victory in war was one thing. Building a lasting peace was proving much more difficult. The captured hegemony supreme arbiter, Veltar, stood in a containment field in the center of the command room. His once proud crystalline form was now dim and cracked, showing the physical effects of his psychological defeat. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he was seeing his empire crumble. "You don't understand what you've done," Veltar said, his voice like breaking glass. "The hegemony brought order to chaos. We guided primitive species away from their destructive impulses. Without our control, the galaxy will tear itself apart." Elena turned to face the fallen alien leader. "The hegemony brought slavery, not order. You stole the freedom and creativity of entire civilizations. The chaos you're seeing now is just the pain of birth. These species are learning to be free again. Around Earth's orbit, the evidence of that freedom was visible everywhere. Ships from dozens of different species filled the space lanes, bringing refugees, diplomats, and former slaves seeking a new life. The variety was staggering. Crystalline beings like the hegemony, but free and independent. Gas cloud intelligences that communicated through color changes. Cybernetic species that had melded with their technology, and many others that defied easy description. Dr. Sarah Okafor, now Director of Xenological Studies, had spent months learning to communicate with these diverse species. Each one brought their own knowledge and technology, but more importantly, they brought their own perspectives on freedom and cooperation. The Zephyrians have offered to share their terraforming technology, she reported to Elena. The Androian Collective wants to establish trade agreements, and the Kepler Liberation Front is asking for military assistance against remaining hegemony holdouts. Elena considered each request carefully. Humanity had become the unofficial leader of the galactic revolution, but that brought tremendous responsibilities. Every decision could affect billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. The greatest challenge came from an unexpected source: success. The freed species looked to humanity not just as liberators, but as leaders who could guide them into a new age. But Elena and her advisors were painfully aware that they were still a young species themselves, barely a century into their space age. "We can't become the new hegemony," Elena warned during a cabinet meeting. "The moment we start telling other species how to live their lives, we become the very thing we fought against." General Thompson, scarred from his own service in the war, agreed completely. "Our strength came from choosing our own path. We have to give other species the same choice, even if we don't agree with their decisions." The solution came from an unexpected source: the auxiliary species who had served aboard hegemony ships. These beings had centuries of experience with different galactic civilizations, and they understood both the benefits and dangers of unified government. Kethmar, a tall reptilian being who had served as Veltar's chief administrator, became an unexpected ally. Freed from his control implants, he revealed a sharp intelligence and deep understanding of galactic politics. The hegemony failed because it ruled through fear and control, Kethmar explained to the human leadership. But complete independence is equally dangerous. Young species need guidance and protection. What you need is not an empire but an alliance. The idea that emerged from those discussions became known as the Free Worlds Coalition. Unlike the hegemony, membership would be completely voluntary. Each species would maintain full sovereignty over their own worlds and people. But they would work together for mutual defense, trade, and the protection of newly emerging civilizations. Elena found herself reluctantly accepting the role of the coalition's first Secretary General. The position was temporary, designed to rotate among different species as the organization matured. But for now, humanity's recent victory and reputation for fairness made them the natural choice to lead. The coalition's first major test came when the hegemony core worlds launched a counterattack. The Empire's remaining forces, led by Veltar's successor, attempted to retake several key systems and restore their control over the auxiliary species, but they found themselves facing not just human forces, but a united coalition of dozens of species. Ships that had once fought for the hegemony now turned their weapons against their former masters. The counterattack failed within weeks, and the hegemony's remaining leadership fled to the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. Captain Marcus Torres, promoted to admiral after his heroic service in the Earth battle, led the coalition fleet that secured the final victory. Standing on the bridge of his new flagship, the Freedom's Light, he watched former hegemony worlds celebrate their liberation. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender offers from the last 3 hegemony systems. They're requesting coalition protection from potential revenge attacks." Torres nodded grimly. The aftermath of liberation was proving almost as dangerous as the war itself. Some freed species wanted vengeance against their former oppressors. Others struggled with the concept of freedom after centuries of control. A few had even asked to remain under some form of guidance, afraid to make decisions for themselves. "Accept their surrender," Torres ordered, "and make sure they understand. The Coalition protects all sapient beings, even former enemies who choose to change their ways." Back on Earth, Elena worked tirelessly to establish the principles that would guide the Coalition for generations to come. The document they created, known as the Charter of Free Worlds, established basic rights for all sapient beings while respecting the diversity of galactic civilization. The Charter guaranteed the right of self-determination for all species, the protection of emerging civilizations from exploitation, and the principle that no world could be forced to join or remain in the Coalition against its will. It also established protocols for peaceful resolution of disputes and mutual defense against external threats. But perhaps the most important section dealt with what humans called the Hegemony Clause. Any Coalition member that attempted to dominate or control other species would be immediately expelled and face potential military action from the remaining members. "We're not trying to create a perfect government," Elena explained to the First Coalition Assembly, addressing representatives from over 100 different species. "We're trying to create a system that can evolve and improve while protecting the freedom that so many died to achieve." The assembly hall itself was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Located on a neutral asteroid station between Earth and Mars, it accommodated beings with vastly different environmental needs. Aquatic species floated in water-filled chambers, while silicon-based life forms basked under heat lamps. Translation systems allowed instant communication between species with completely different concepts of language and meaning. As Elena spoke, she could see the faces, or equivalent features, of beings from across the galaxy. Some were former hegemony, slaves, freed for the first time in their species' memory. Others were representatives of civilizations that had hidden in remote systems, avoiding the Empire's expansion. All of them shared the same hope, that this new alliance would be different from the tyrannies of the past. "The hegemony promised order and delivered slavery," Elena continued. "We promise something harder but more valuable, the freedom to succeed, or fail by your own choices. The Coalition will stand ready to help, but we will never force our will upon anyone." The first votes of the Coalition Assembly established relief funds for war-damaged worlds, joint exploration missions to map the galaxy beyond hegemony space, and educational exchanges between member species. But the most important vote was symbolic: the creation of a memorial to all those who had died fighting for freedom, including the humans who had given their lives in Earth's defense. Admiral Torres attended the memorial's dedication ceremony, representing all the Coalition military forces. As he read the names of the fallen, Captain Torres, Admiral Chen, Captain Murphy, Lieutenant Kim, and thousands of others, he thought about the galaxy they had died to create. It was not a perfect galaxy. There were still conflicts between member species, worlds that chose isolation over cooperation, and regions where former hegemony loyalists continued to cause trouble. But it was a free galaxy where each species could choose its own path among the stars. Dr. Okafor, now in her 70s, had become the Coalition's chief.